You're listening to Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. For more information, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at SBT Songs, or check us out at chrisblair.com. What's up, everybody? Chris Blair here, and on this week's episode of Stories Behind the Songs, I've got my buddy Keio Stroud on. A little bit of a switch. Normally we're sitting down with songwriters, and Keio is one of the best drummers that I know. So we're going to talk about how he got into playing drums. Started early on when he was like 3 years old in Georgia. Taught himself how to play. We're going to dive into that a little bit. And then how he moved to Nashville, started playing with Wade Hayes, and then went on to play with Big and Rich and Randy Rogers Band, and just so many great people. He's going to tell a little bit of the stories about how it is being out on the road, and how he transitions from one type of music to another very quickly, and how he's just become known as just an amazing drummer in town, whether it's with one of the many people that he's played with out on the road or in the studio here in Nashville. So let's get to it. Here is my buddy Keio Stroud. Well, welcome back, everybody. My name is Chris Blair, and this is another episode of Stories Behind the Songs. We've got Keio Stroud in the house.
Hello.
We're, you guys don't know this because these are scheduled and they're going to be aired when they're aired, but we're starting late because Keio didn't know how to mic himself. I mean,
no, I couldn't figure it out.
You would think that as long as you've been out on the road, like, you would have figured this out.
Yeah, I never had to do any miking.
Yeah, you're just big time.
Yeah, just drumming.
Yeah.
Drumming and sometimes drinking.
There's something about drummers, you know? Like,
there is.
I don't know.
I mean, my biggest influence is Brian Davis.
Oh, man. And this is how we're starting off, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, man. All right. BD. I'm not even going to touch it. I'm not going to go there. Let's go back to Little Keio.
Yeah.
Tell me about, by the way, I didn't preface this, like, we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah. Pretend
I know nothing.
Oh, yeah.
I want to hear your story. A lot of times I usually tell people that before they come on, but yeah, let's just go back to the beginning. What got you into music in the first place? What was life growing up for you?
So I grew up in a pretty musical family. So my dad plays, my granddad plays, my grandmother sings. My great-grandfather, my grandmother, her dad, he was a singer. All of my granddad's brothers, I say all, two of them are really good singers. Then my dad plays, my aunt. So I kind of grew up, with it being in the house. I grew up with my grandparents, and my granddad had two pianos in the house, one upstairs and one downstairs. And basically the one upstairs was like his piano, and the one downstairs was like the one for us. And we would all it was out of tune and, whatever, but it was one for the kids to play, or grandkids to play on. So we had that. I guess the piano thing I didn't realize until about 5 years old. But my dad had bands, and they would rehearse at the house, so there was always drums there.
Yeah.
And so I was a kid, like 4 years old, really, really, like, drawn to the drums. And so they would rehearse, and like a dumbass, I would like go climb in the bass drum and like lay on the blanket because there's no, we're talking 80s, so there was no front head.
Yeah.
And I would lay there, it's probably why I'm deaf now, but I was like just really into it. And then like after rehearsals, they would let me play drums for, I would sit on someone's lap and they let me play drums. And I vaguely remember that part of it, but the sleeping in the bass drum, I do remember that. And that was when my dad had a Christian band, quartet. So they would rehearse at the house. And then my dad had another band that was like a top 40, cover band. And they would rehearse at this guy, Charles Smith's house. And I remember this very well. And probably is goofy. I've never really given Charles really the love he needs on this because he's now passed away, unfortunately. He actually died like right as I moved to Nashville about 24 years ago.
Yeah.
But he had this huge drum set. I'm going to say sizes, which means nothing to anybody that's not a drummer, but it was like 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 16, 18, 224-inch kick drums, cymbals everywhere, just the biggest like Alex Van Halen drum kit in the world. And I would, after rehearsals with that band, they would let me go, and I would just go, you know, hit all the drums. And then from that, I just started just like playing drums. And then my dad would teach me how to play songs. I can't remember the first song I learned how to play on drums, but my dad taught me some song on guitar that I still can't play. But anyway, so I started there, and then my granddad would like teach us piano stuff, which I didn't really keep up with, unfortunately. But the drums were just kind of, it was always my thing. I just loved drums, and so I played in church with my granddad and my dad also, so that was kind of fun. I would say this, I probably didn't play music with people that weren't in my family until I was 18 years old, which is kind of crazy to think about. Like, I was in Athens, I was just kind of, a virtual nobody that, my dad and granddad and my family, they were known as singers and, all that stuff. And they would sing on people's records and stuff like that in Athens. But then there was just me. I was just kind of like this weirdo kid that just played drums and, and never, like, I was never in a garage band with my friends. So I missed out on, like, everything that everybody else does growing up. I didn't do any of that. It was like, I've never been in a band before, which is like really funny to even think about that. Like, everybody grows up playing in bands, and I've just always been like a side guy, just a dude that just I would play in this band, or I'd be like, I would play in this version of my dad's band, and I'm playing this version of my dad's band, this version of my granddad's band, and funny, one of my goals as a kid was to play with my granddad's jazz band. They played once a year, and it was just like. It was kind of the funniest thing because they were getting older, so it was kind of dying off. And so, like, they would replace someone who died with someone's kid. And so I was like, as horrible as this sounds, I'm sitting there just waiting for the drummer to die so I can get the gig. It's just like horrible.
Yeah.
And he never died. I mean, he did actually. He died like last year, but he eventually just got busy, and so they would let me come and play. Which I thought was kind of, it was kind of funny, and also like, amusing. Like, oh, here's a 7-year-old kid. He, let him play or whatever. But one of the guys, Dr. Allen, was a music teacher, and he was like, "Hey, your kid's got something, so he should pursue this kind of thing." And so so then I just did, man. So like it's I wish I had like this really fun story of like, oh man, me and my friends got in the garage and were rocking out, but like that just wasn't the case. I would literally play with my dad and my granddad and some of their friends, basically, and then I learned how to play country music by listening to Brooks and Dunn and playing in my garage.
Wow.
That was like, I would, my grandparents were way nice. I could play drums from about 7 o'clock in the morning until about 10 o'clock at night. And sometimes I would. Dude. And they would not like it. Yeah. I mean, they were cool. And they were, like my granddad, he would like open the door and be like, all right, enough. I've had enough of this. Take a break. Or he'll say, you need to eat or something like that. Yeah. But I did that until like I moved here. I'm not saying moved here, but until I went to college, basically. Yeah. I was just that dude. And I started to play with other people once I got into college. Like, that's where I met Zach Brown for the first time. We played a couple of really weird gigs at the Mellow Mushroom in Atlanta. Yeah. And it was funny because I can't exactly remember, because it wasn't the Zach Brown band. He was just playing guitar with with some other friends. Yeah. This was like late 90s. Yeah. Which is funny. It's late 90s.
Yeah, I think you moved here, I think like 3 years before I did. Like, when did you move here? 98, 99, something like that?
I moved here in 2000.
2000, okay.
Yeah, officially 2001, but I was here in 2000.
Okay, yeah. I think it was 2002 for me. Yeah, so, but with, like, growing up with, like, the family band stuff, like, when did you get into country music?
So, my granddad loved Little Jimmy Dickens.
Okay.
Strange, whatever. But he was all about it, right? And, and also, I grew up in Georgia, so, like, at that time, on the radio would be country music, especially for him as a younger man. Yeah. And I guess Little Jimmy Dickens was a little bit older than he is, but that was kind of the thing. So he loved it, and so we would listen to those, and we would watch shoot 'em ups, westerns, and so, and then one day I was just like, I don't know why. It's really funny because this skill it's now developed into a skill that I use for work. But I would the only radio station I could get was a country radio station in my garage, and so I didn't know any of these songs. But what I would do is I'd put a song would play, I'd listen to a verse and chorus, and then I would jump in and play the next verse, chorus, and then eventually, like, when that song came back on again, I would know it, kind of thing. But that's kind of how I got into, like, playing country music. Was like it was the only radio station that worked on this, like, really horrible radio that I had. That I think, like, someone found the dumpster and I just got it out, and it's like, this one station works, and it happened to be, like, I said it wasn't classic country, it was modern country at that time, but it'd be 90s.
Yeah.
Or 80s to 90s country stuff.
Amazing time for country music.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, literally, like, Brooks and Dunn, like, is how I learned how to play.
Yeah.
Like, like, I was like, I had no idea it was Brooks and Dunn, because, like, I didn't know anybody's names,
right?
I didn't know the name of songs or anything like that. It's just that I would just listen to it, and then I'll hop in and play, and I would try to mimic it, and then eventually, my two favorite things to do were there was a live Earth, Wind & Fire concert, and so I would set up my garage, I put it on, and you could hear the crowd, so I would, like, play as if I was in the concert.
I love this.
so I would, like, be doing the moves, just playing,
spinning
like,
your sticks, and
I was just a dumb kid, but I did that, and it was funny, and then I forget what it was. I found some live country things also, and I would do the same thing. But I can't remember what song it was, but I remember, like, Brooks and Dunn being one of the first country songs that, like, or country bands that I was aware of them, and then Wade Hayes was another one.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Wade became my first country gig.
Really?
So, yeah.
Okay.
So, like, I
don't think I knew that.
Yeah, so I ended up, like, watching, between playing in the garage, and then eventually the drums moved inside, so it was not CMT, it was not CNN, but, what's the other one? The other country radio station that played videos, but they would show videos, and so then I would, like, play along to those, and that's how I discovered, like, Wade Hayes, like Daryl Singletary, Red Akins, and all that stuff, because that was happening at that time.
Yeah.
And then I would just play along to that stuff, and then eventually I started to make notes, because I was watching the videos, and I made notes and stuff, and I was like, oh, this is whatever. And then, strangely enough, I would have never thought in a million years that it would have come back to me that, like, all those, like, pretty much everyone I saw playing a video then, I've worked with now. Yeah. Which is, like, so bizarre.
Yeah, you have. I mean, this is why I was excited to bring you on, because, the majority of the episodes that we do on this podcast are the songwriters.
Oh, yeah.
And we're diving into, the hits and how they wrote it, why they wrote it, all that kind of thing. And occasionally, I love sitting down with, publishers, and we did an amazing episode with Rusty over at Sony.
Oh, yeah.
And producers and road guys and all that. And, like, I've been so excited to sit down and get your perspective as, one of the road guys, one of the band guys, like, and I can't even, I couldn't even list all the people that you have on your resume, because I think it would take the entire time that we have allotted for this podcast. I mean, it's insane, dude. Like what was that like when you first got to town, and, like, Wade was the first guy, like, you've played with Big and Rich for years and years and years, like, everywhere from Big and Rich to Emmylou Harris to Rodney Crowell to, like, I mean, you've just got all these, like, huge spectrum of people that you've gotten to play with. The late night show that wasn't too long ago that you got to sit in, and I sent you a text. We were, like, randomly watching it at night, and I was like, "What are you doing on this?" Yeah,
I see on my TV.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, like, what was it like? Let's dive into maybe even a little advice, like, guys that moved to town. Like, how did you get so connected and going from someone that hadn't been in a band on your own, like all the family band stuff, to then coming to Nashville and like, you've been playing with icons ever since?
Yeah, so I moved to Nashville. Actually, it's a not funny, but it's a story. It's not really funny, but because someone dies. But the first,
there's a lot of death in this episode. I'm waiting for the drummer to die.
Someone dies, but the first band that I got to play in that wasn't a family band was a band called Flood City Shootout, and it was my first time going out west to California, and we were opening for a band called Southern Culture on the Skids, which is hilarious because I was in college at that time, and my roommate was a girl, and her sister was dating the drummer from that band, and she and I lived together, but we didn't have a clue, which is like so funny.
Wow.
Like that's just like random fact that has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that life is just random like that, and that's how, and my life is continuing to be random like that. So while out on that tour, my great grandfather passes away, and so I had to come home early for the funeral. And I come home, and it was whatever, funeral stuff. And then my dad's buddy called and said, "Hey man, does your son still play drums?" He goes, "Yeah, he does." He goes, "We had to leave our drummer in Nashville, and we're coming to Athens to play a frat party. Will he play drums with us?" And my dad was like, "Yeah, he will." Didn't ask me. "Yeah, he'll do it." So I had a gig. So I drove my drums to this frat house. I beat the band there because they'd been waiting for this guy to come down. And then we played the gig, and afterwards the band leader goes, "Hey man, if you want to move to Nashville, you have a job." And that was this guy, Tyrone Smith. And so I thought about it, and I said, "Yeah, man." He goes, "You start in 2 weeks." And I was like, "Oh, I do?" And then 9/11 happens, so then that pushes things back a little bit. But I eventually end up moving here, like full time in 2001, and that was because I've been coming up here off and on doing like some sessions with some people.
Yeah.
One of my early times in Nashville in 2000, or it would have been 2000, maybe 99. Was Shelby Lynn. I got a call to do an audition for Shelby Lynn, so I came up. Never got to actually do the audition, but I came up to Nashville, and so that was my introduction to like coming into Nashville, and then hanging out with the Wooten brothers and some other guys like that. But anyway, so basically, long story short is, I moved to Nashville, and I had this gig that plays Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I had the rest of the week to just kind of do whatever. So I would go down Broadway, and I would go to Printer's Alley and just meet all the people I could, and then it let me sit in. And the next thing I know, people were like, "Hey man, you're like a good drummer. Like you should, you want to play drums in my band?" And I was like, "No, like I already have a band, right?" And that was Wade Hayes. "Hey man," like I was like, and then like the next day, I there was no Googling, 20 years ago. But I remember I made some phone calls to somebody, and I was like, "Hey man, I got like approached by this guy," and they were like, "Oh yeah, you should do that. He's got a new project out called McHayes. It's him and Mark McClurg, and man, you'd be really good for that. It'd be a good way to get your foot in the door into the country music scene." And I was like, "Oh okay." So I called Tyrone and said, "Hey man, I'm quitting. I'm going to do this country gig." And he was like, "Hey man, I get it. You always got a gig here if you need one," kind of thing. So thanks.
That's cool.
And then one of the first things I noticed was that I automatically was making less money. I was like, "Oh, this is weird. I'm making less money and not playing as frequently." You know what I mean? It was a gig, and it was great.
Yeah.
And it was a great introduction into country music.
Yeah.
Because Wade and Mark at that time were doing a bunch of opening slots. They were on Universal South.
Yeah.
So a lot of Joe Nichols dates at that time, some Cross Canyon Ragweed dates also came up at that time. And so what I did was I didn't know anybody, and I was kind of like the fresh dude, and I looked a lot different from everybody else also in those days. Now it's a little more inclusive, but in those days, not so much. There's like maybe 6 of us. And by 6 of us, I mean black people, not drummers. But there wasn't a whole lot of us working in the country music industry, especially not as like country, singers or writers or whatever, like just road guys.
Yeah.
But so from that alone, not saying that I got things because I was black, but like just being noticeable, and people like, oh, who is this guy? This guy plays great. He also knows the music. He knows the culture, because I'm that person. When I jump into something, I jump into it. So I would, like, in those early days, we would stop at truck stops, and I would buy those CDs. It's like country classics, 100 hours. I'd buy them, and then I would sit in my bunk and just listen to them over and over and over, because I wanted to be ready for anything. At that point, because in my brain, I was like, I've made it. I got a road gig, and I've been in Nashville for less than 2 years, and I already have a road gig. Like, I'm ahead of the curve. Like, I'm somebody. So let me continue to be someone. And these are all me joking things in my head, but I would buy those things, and then back in those days on Broadway, you couldn't play any rock music. It was all country stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And so I would go hang out on Broadway, and then I would sit in. Because I didn't have a gig on Broadway. I would sit in, and somebody would call, like, 14 Karat Mine. I'm like, I know that song. And then I started playing, and then someone was like, how do you know all these songs? Like, and I was like, well, I buy these truck stop CDs.
Because you became the Black Yoda.
Yeah, I did.
That's why.
But,
I take it all in. I am the Black Yoda.
I would, man. I would just, like, take all this. There was no charts. I would just abusing myself with music.
I love that,
and
man.
just in my head, and I can still, like, I can't tell you, like, if you called a song, I would be like, I don't know the name of that song at all. But as soon as you go into it, I'd be like, oh, I know this song.
Yeah.
You start playing it. It's just kind of one of those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so to me, I just met as many people as possible. 2 people that I met right away were Lee Kelly, who at that time was playing drums for Gary Allan, and Dave McAfee, who was playing drums at Toby Keith. And Dave was kind of the guy that really kind of took me under his wing and was like, I'm going to introduce you to everybody I know, because I think you should be doing this.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. And he did, and the Fiddle and Steel thing was great. And that was a cool hang for people who've never been in Nashville or haven't been, been in recent years.
Yeah, I love
old days.
By the way, we haven't had an episode in a while. Fire truck, there we go.
Yeah, it's here.
We love it. It's part of the podcast.
It's on fire.
We don't even try to edit it out anymore.
Dude, we're on fire, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah,
dude, I loved that place. I would live there. When I first moved to town, I'd go sing karaoke at Lonnie's.
Yeah.
and meet people, but then I'd go to Fiddle and Steel, and I mean, like all the guys off the road. I mean, I was jumping up and playing, and it's like I had no idea. And then you'd find out afterwards, like I'm playing in like the steel players, Alan Jackson steel player, the bass players, like Rascal Flatts. It was just like, it was literally like everybody off the road would go there and just jam. And it was that place that was not touristy.
No,
it was all the locals, and it was just, I loved it, man.
Literally. I mean, and it's kind of what like the local is now.
Exactly.
Where it's like, where it's not on
until you just said that on a podcast, and now everybody that comes to town is going to go there. And you guys heard it here. Keio just ruined the local. I'm just
ruined it. I know. Go to Losers instead. No. But it was fun for that. And what's so crazy was that there was no social media at that time. If you had a BlackBerry, you were rich, and I was far from rich, right? And so you had to be social. Like social media was you being social. You were like, you would go out, you meet somebody, you buy drinks, you do whatever. And then from there, they would call you because you'd be a fresh face for them. Like, I remember, several times where, like, I'd meet somebody, just met them. And the next day, they're like, hey, man, can you do these dates with so-and-so because we need a drummer? And you're like, why are they calling me? And I go, oh, because I'm the last guy they saw.
Yeah.
I'm literally the last drummer they saw. And they liked me for whatever reason, or they're just desperate, but they liked me.
You're likable.
and so therefore you go out and you go play with this person, or you go play with that person. So for me, like once the Wade thing kind of fizzled out to being no gig, I went back to I was basically an independent guy, right? And so I was playing with everybody, and so I was kind of like the Mikey of drums, It's like, oh, Keio, he'll play that gig,
Yeah.
And I would do anything once, because I always thought that I was always going to meet somebody from doing one of those gigs, no matter, and not in a using way, but like I would meet a friend, like, oh man, this guy, we hit it off, or this girl and I, we hit it off, or, or this, I like playing with these people like me, And so sometimes it would turn into like a legit friendship with people, and sometimes it would turn into just like years of working with people, because you just never, you never knew. Like, we're all, younger. I was in my 20s and people being in their 30s, and there were some people in their 50s that I was playing with who were either still looking for a break or had breaks, but would still do random gigs, and then would just call you for stuff.
Yeah.
Like, hey man, like, what are you doing right now? I know you, like, nothing. Okay, like a good example is like, and this is more session stuff, but like, I met Eddie Bayers early on in Nashville, and I told Eddie that I wanted to play sessions and all this stuff, and he was like, well, all right, man, well, I'll help you out, and he did. And what would happen is sometimes he would get, he'd double book himself or something. He would call me up and go, hey, you working today? And this is at 9 a.m. You working today? Nope. Well, you are now. Go to Station West. My drums are there. They know you're coming. And you show up, and you're on a demo session with, Brett Mason, Michael Rose.
Yeah.
I remember one of my favorite ones I did like that was Al Anderson. It was Al Anderson, Scotty Emmerich, and Dean Dillon.
Come on.
Yeah. And we were doing, I remember this very well, we were doing demos for those guys, and then we were cutting a song for Billy Currington that Scotty had wrote. And so Billy came in like on the 2, I think, or the 6 or something. Like, he eventually came in and like sang with the band was recording. And I think that maybe that song made the record. I don't know if it did or not, but I just remember just being in that band and also just going, why am I here? But I had a lot of those moments, like as a young man, as in my early 20s, where people had more faith in me than I had in me, away from the drum kit. But once I sat down, I was fine. But there were certain things I couldn't talk myself into. Like, now some people really have a lot of confidence. They will, oh yeah, I'm a drummer. I'm great. I'm great. I can do this. I never was that dude. I was just like, man, I'll give it my best shot. And if we got it, we got it. If we don't, call someone else. And I'm cool with that, And I've always felt like that's been something that's kept me around, is that if I'm not the guy for the gig, I will tell you, like, I'm not the guy for the gig. But in my early years, I would try it.
Yeah.
I would try it and then realize I wasn't the guy for the gig. And then so when they called me the next time, I was like, man, I'm not your dude, kind of thing. But
I feel like that was pretty rare, though. I mean, you've got so much talent. You are, we were joking, but you are a very likable guy.
Most
you know,
days.
I mean, it's just, it's, and again, your list of people that you've been on the road with and played with. I mean, like, we tried to figure. I don't even know if we ever figured out like where we first met. Like,
I know we were trying to figure it out. I know.
Yeah. We were talking about that a while back, but I think it was at John Rich's house. That's what I
very
think.
possible. Yeah.
But there's also like, like music mafia days.
Yeah.
That I would hang out with all those guys.
Same. Yeah.
And I know you were in the room.
Yeah, I was around for that.
Fiddle and Still, maybe. I
Yeah.
don't know, but let's kind of shift. I want to dive into that because that was a project that absolutely just blew up with Big and Rich. Gretchen. Just how did all of that come about? Like, how did you get teamed up with John and Kenny?
So I met those dudes years ago. When they were doing the mafia stuff, because I wasn't really involved in it. I was just like a spectator, like most of us.
Just hanging out.
Yeah, just kind of hanging out, and then every now and then you would get up and play.
Yeah.
My buddy DD would play drums, and he'd be like, "Oh man, like get him play this tune, man. Get him play." And so we all kind of got to know each other, and I didn't really know much about John or Kenny.
Yeah.
And then I guess John there'd be stuff to know about John, but Kenny I didn't really know at that time. And just kind of hanging around with those dudes, we all got to know each other. And
when they first started that, was John still with Lone Star, or he had left already?
Yeah, he already left. Yeah.
Okay.
And so
because Big and Rich hadn't started yet.
Big and Rich hadn't started. Yeah, Big and Rich basically started in 2008. Oh fuck, either 4 or 8. I can't remember. I think it's 8. No, 4.
Say it. When did Save a Horse come out?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's 2004. That's right.
Okay.
They weren't a thing then. But they were becoming what were doing, and they went to South Dakota and wrote that first record and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
But the Music Mafia thing was just like kind of a collective of just people, of like, I wouldn't say misfit toys, but kind of that thing where it was like, a bunch of love, and let's all get together with there's no musical boundaries.
Right.
Basically, art is art.
Yep.
Everybody come here, let's love on each other and do it and do their thing. And I just remember that was one of the first things I got to see that I was like, man, Nashville is a hip place, because it was everybody from Damian Horn, Adam Schoenfeld and all those guys just doing their thing and just having a great time and just kind of spreading love via music. So it was way, way cool to be a part of that as a spectator. And then, obviously getting up to jam some.
Yeah.
And then basically 4 years later, I was playing with Terry Clark, and we did a co-headline tour with Big and Rich in Canada. And so I got to know those guys even better from that. And then fast forward another 7 years, I got a call from Ethan to be in the band. And originally it was kind of funny because I thought they just called me to sub, so I went out and played a couple weeks. And I remember we were in Deadwood actually, and I'm hanging out kind of by myself, whatever. And I get a phone call from John Rich, and he was like, "Where are you at?" And I was like, "I'm at a bar." We had a day off. "I'm at a bar by myself." And he was like, "Hey man, this is your gig, right? You're not subbing, you're the drummer. So you can hang out with everybody else." That's what he said.
You're like, really?
And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." He was like, because I was kind of just off my own world, just
yeah.
I didn't want to get, because it was a good gig.
Everybody's like, that guy's really good on stage, but man, he just disappears.
He just
doesn't
disappears.
talk to anybody.
He doesn't hang out with any of us. And why is this? And you're like, and I was, I was kind of, in some ways, I was kind of protecting my heart a little bit, because I was like, man, this is a cool gig, and I don't want to get attached to it and then get fired. And then all of a sudden, I'm like a puddle of, goo, just sitting here crying. And I wouldn't really do that, but I just I didn't want to do that. So once I got that phone call, I was like, okay, cool, all right, we're good, And then over the years, I did the gig for 8 years.
Yeah.
So over the years, there was more and more oh man, I'm here, I'm not getting fired. This is great,
Yeah.
And then when I eventually left to focus on my daughter, doing stuff with my daughter, and then doing more session stuff and writing, which I did not do very well at writing at all, but whatever. But the session thing has now, it's been almost 4 years since leaving Big and Rich. So the session thing has become a thing, which has been really nice. But yeah, man, those guys were great, man. They were so fun. And what was cool about, you're talking about the Mafia thing. What was cool is we would every now and then bring back Mafia-esque shows, especially if Gretchen came out.
Yeah.
If we were doing something where Gretchen was there, or Rachel, or Cowboy Troy, or Damien, we would do that kind of vibe, and people would see it.
Yeah.
Which was way cool, and that's something that I feel like now, if you missed it, you missed it. The Whiskey Jam thing is as close, especially in the beginning of that, was as close as you got to a Music Mafia-esque kind of vibe. But then, I don't know. It's it's interesting because I feel like we are so lucky because Nashville was full of very unique things that didn't get too big because it's pre-internet or pre-social media.
Yep.
So you actually got to be a part of things that were really cool and very intimate because they weren't going viral. You know what I mean? It wasn't
Yeah, that's a good point. I never really thought about it that way. But yeah, I mean, when I think about all of the things that, really that both of us got to experience, soon after moving here, I mean, even probably 2009, 2010, we would have somewhat of a Mafia about once a month at Cummins Station. We were over there because 2 Foot would come over all the time, and he'd always bring a crew.
Yeah.
And and the place that used to be across from 12th and Porter that we were talking about, that Mafia used to be at,
That's right.
just some of those doors that we were able to get in, like,
Yeah.
you know, you're right. Like I don't think that would have ever happened if it would have blown up like
No.
Instagram, TikTok kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is that everybody was there because they wanted to be there.
Yeah.
And that was the cool thing about it. No one was there to be seen, maybe, but you know, there was no, you know, no one had a million followers or anything like that. You know what I mean? You were there to like experience this thing because it was like badass, and then maybe by chance you would get a chance to play tambourine, or you would get to like sing a hook, like, you know, if someone saw you and pointed and grabbed you up on stage, you would do a thing. You know, like seeing like Angie Aparo. You know, and then another thing too is like just seeing like talented people just be talented.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like it's one thing when you see talented people and they're being the artists. You know what I mean? Like oh, I see so and so, and today they're being, you know, them whatever. But it's also cool when you see someone just be a talent.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one of the things that we got to see early in Nashville.
Definitely.
Was people being talent and not people being artists or influencers. They were literally like, hey, I just moved to Nashville and I sing my ass off.
Yeah.
And here I am. Here I am singing for you. Don't follow me on TikTok because I don't have it. Don't follow me on this. The only thing you can do is, if you like what I do, you're going to come to me afterwards. We're
Maybe
gonna
a phone number. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to shake hands, and we're going to get a phone number. I might give you the right number if I think you're not a creep, which is hilarious. That's happened to me a couple times. But yeah, where people give me the wrong phone number, I'm like, man, I was calling you, and they're like, oh, you don't like me. Okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
One person confessed to it. I thought it was funny. He's like, man, I just thought you were weird. I just thought you were a weird guy, so I gave you the. I didn't like. I'm giving you the wrong number. I was like, fair.
Hey, honesty. I love
fair.
it. Yeah.
That's fair. I'll never hire you. No.
This episode is brought to you by Sennheiser microphones. When we first started this podcast, we were using some older microphones, and Sennheiser came in and sponsored us and gave us some MK4s and 914s. And I mean, I'm telling you, it's made all of the difference in the world. We love these microphones. We use them at the listening room as well. And I just can't say enough great things about them. Go check out Sennheiser.com. If you are into music in any way, their microphones are hands down the best on the planet. Go check them out, Sennheiser.com. And thank you, Sennheiser, for the support and the sponsorship. We love y'all. Man, yeah, it was those were magical times in Nashville. And it's still, I mean, it's just a different Nashville now, but it's still awesome. But you know, like I love hearing how you kind of got into it and all that. Like all your time on the road, you know, whether it's Big and Rich or whoever, what would you say your most memorable experience is playing out?
You know, it's funny because it just comes to my mind, and because it's like the one. For whatever reason, this is 2005. We're in Petaluma, California. I'm playing with Rodney Crowell, and in the band at that time would have been Jed Hughes, Will Kimbrough, myself, and Denny Bigsby, and then Rodney. We're playing this theater in Petaluma, and this is like the end of a 5-week run. We have like a few more shows left because Rodney was doing a big push for his record, The Outsiders. But anyway, we're playing this gig, and Will and Jed would open, and those guys were on fire that day. For whatever reason, they were doing a song swap thing and just getting the crowd into it. And then we got out there, and it was killer, and Rodney played 3 hours.
Wow.
Like a 3-hour gig, and it was rock. I mean, from top to bottom, I mean, it was like game on. Like everybody was on fire. The crowd was on fire, and it was and I just remember like I was at that. I would have been 25, I guess, at that time. I just turned 25. Like literally like the week before, I just turned 25.
Yeah.
And I just remember just like everybody just being just into it. Rodney was into it. He was playing songs. It was the first time we played like Ashes by Now. Like he wouldn't. A lot of times with Rodney, if a song became a hit by an artist that he wrote that wasn't a hit by him, he would not record it. I mean, he wouldn't play it live. We would do Ain't Living Long Like This because that was his first single. that he wrote. Obviously, Waylon cut it, But like, I feel like that night we did like Ashes by Now, we did Stars on the Water, we did like Please Remember Me. We did all these songs that he had recorded for other people that we would not normally play.
Yeah.
And people were just eating it up. And I just remember like when the gig was over, we all were like high-fiving each other. Just like, yeah, this is, And then, true story, I think it was the next day, we played the Harley Strictly Bluegrass Festival. And I just remember being slightly hungover and walking off the bus, and then realized that we're in the park. We're in Golden Gate Park or whatever, We're like right there, and I walk out and I'm wearing just my underwear, and there are people walking by, and I'm just like, it's one of those like I'm like, to get some air, and I walk out the door and I'm like, doing that whole thing, and I looked in and I was like, oh shit.
Oh man.
This is a true story. So I'm like in my underwear, I'm like stretching, I'm like, oh my God. And then like I realized that I'm in my underwear and there's people around, and I'm like, oh, and there's music going on already. I'm like, where's soundcheck, I guess? And I'm like, oh man, I thought that we would be like, backstage or whatever, but buses just parked wherever. And I just remember like meeting Guy Clark in my underwear.
You did not. Oh, how'd that go?
It was great.
Did he ask, like, why are you in your underwear?
No, he did not.
It was just normal.
He just said, hey, is this Rodney's bus? I go, yes. Like, come on up, man.
Oh my gosh, dude, that is the best.
I remember like going, putting clothes on, walking away.
Oh, you should have just owned it. You should have just gone on stage in your underwear that night.
I will say our joke about me playing shirtless, it did start with playing with Rodney. Believe it or not, we did Green Hall 2 nights in a row, and it was so hot that the first time I played with no shirt on was on that gig. And it's funny because it's turned into a massive joke now, but it's very liberating to play without a shirt. I just need to be skinnier. Right now it's like, oh, fat guy, no shirt, it's funny, haha. Now I'm like, oh wait, I need to like actually lose some weight so I can look good.
Yeah. Oh man, I love it.
But yeah, no, that was also a great gig too, because I remember the after party. So we played the same time that Doc Watson played, and which is kind of weird because at that time Rodney was doing this, like The Outsiders was a rock band. We were rocking. It was full blown, just like 10 from at the gate kind of thing, and then he would play a couple of like ballads, and then we would come back out again, and just do it. But I remember being at the after party and I see Doc Watson, and I was like, this is my chance. I got to meet this guy. So I walk up and I was like, hey man, I'm Keio, I'm a big fan. Sorry I missed your set. We were playing at the same time, but I didn't get a chance to hear you. And he goes, oh, you were playing Rodney. I heard you guys. And I was like, oh, we were so loud that it just bled over to his set. And I was like, oh, I felt horrible. I mean, nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
But I was just like, oh, that had to be a weird spot. And I feel like I felt bad. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. He was like, not your fault. I mean, he was like, nice to meet you. And I was like, cool. And I remember walking away going, that wasn't the impression I really wanted to make.
Yeah.
I didn't really make with that guy, but okay, cool. I mean, he was way cool. So it was fine, but yeah.
It brings up a question. How was that? Like, you like playing with all these different people, and a lot of times you were jumping from, one style to another style. I mean, you've played with Randy Rogers' band. I mean, come on, dude. Like, so like how was that? Like, do you put that back to like just the hours and hours and hours you spent like as an encyclopedia with music, learning all this? Like, how did you go from rocking out one night to classic country the next night to like, whatever?
Well, I will say this. One thing, facility is one thing. You have to have some sort of facility, right? But the biggest thing,
explain what you mean for all the listeners.
So basically skills. So you have to have a skill set to be able to physically play the instrument, or physically sing, hear pitch or whatever. Yeah. So you work on that. So that's your facility. So being able to play straight, basic beats. I know it sounds goofy, but a 2/4 shuffle, 4/4 shuffle, a straight thing, 4 on the floor, a rock beat, a train beat. Like it starts there, right?
Yeah.
That's the essential, the easiest thing that you have to go for. But then
And you learned all that from Brian Davis, right?
I learned it all from Brian Davis.
Full circle. We're coming
yes,
back.
Yes. I got this, man. But you do that, but then you realize that your true instrument is your ears. Without your ears, you can't do anything. You don't even know you don't even know where to begin without your ears.
Yeah.
Unless if you're looking at sheet music, okay, cool, whatever. But if you're not looking at sheet music, you're talking about your ears, and your ears have to gravitate and direct you in which way to go, because it is a conversation. So basically, someone is talking to you, or the music is talking to you, and then you have to return a response, and your response is basically joining in with them and playing a groove. So like a good example. So we like at St. Augustine, I played with Brett James, and I could say that I probably knew 85% of those songs because I've played with 85% of those people.
Yeah.
But the songs I didn't know, I literally sat there and like listened to him play guitar, listen to his vocal, and then that determined what I would do.
Yeah.
And hopefully what I was doing is right. You know what I mean?
But that was one of the coolest shows.
But so it starts there. So then you realize that your true instrument is your ears, and you express yourself through your instrument.
Yeah.
Right? As weird and deep as that can sound.
No, it's a beautiful way to explain it, man.
But it's kind of how it works, right? So no matter what music you're playing, your ears hear it, and then your ears direct your facility. So if you're playing bluegrass music, which is usually no drums, but if it's a train beat thing, right? So you hear that, and then you hear the banjo, and you're like, okay, well, I need to match. My snare drum needs to match the banjo, and then my foot needs to match with the bass. All right, here we go. This is what I'm doing, right? Or if you're doing a gig with, let's just say Randy Rogers, Les, the drummer, is a great drummer, and he plays great parts. And one of the cool things about that band is that they're pretty consistent. They never set out to be perfect, but they're really consistent in how they operate. And those songs just play themselves because you hear it and you go, oh yeah, this part's coming up, and you just know to do it.
Yeah.
Same thing with Rodney. There's no set list with Rodney Crowell, so and sometimes the encore, he would do a thing called Stump the Band, where he would play songs that we may not know at all. And so everyone had to have their ears on and ready, because you could be playing Elvira, you could be doing Please Remember Me, you could be playing some 2-beat jump song that he just wrote, or you'd be playing like the Old Pipeliner, or you could do Respect. You know what I mean? Like you just never. And Hank Jr. was the same way, where like Hank you knew the first 5 songs or 6 songs, and after that it was like, hold on, because you might be playing a song, and then right in the middle of it he'll break off into another song, and if you're not paying attention and knowing how to flip that right there, you're lost, and everybody's like, looking at you like, what do you change? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So it's so the big thing is, I think, developing your ear, and then knowing and developing your ear and allowing your ear to direct your talent, if that makes any sense. To direct your facility, which turns into your talent, because a lot of times if you don't use your ears, you play what you think you're supposed to be playing, as opposed to what your ears are suggesting you should play. So like, if this sounds goofy, but like, say there's a shuffle, right? So if someone goes ching a ching a ching a ching, right? But if you're not listening and you just go, well, the only thing I know how to do is to play straight. So if they go ching a ching a ching a ching, you go, and all of a sudden the guy's like, what are you doing? And you're like, listen, it's a shuffle, and then you're like, what do you mean it's a shuffle? Oh, okay. And then you start playing a shuffle, which is fine, but your ears should be able to tell you those things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you should trust your ears also, like I'm going off this whole tangent about people's ears, but I'm actually like insanely passionate about the fact that your ears are your real instrument, and then you express yourself through what you play.
Yeah.
What you do, because it really does dictate everything for you. It it also allows you to get gigs. It allows you to stay on gigs. You know what I mean? Because it helps you on and off the court.
Yeah.
Because when you're off the court, you may use your ears, and they'll tell you when you need to say something, when you don't need to say something also.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, no, when I want to write a book called Know When to Go to Your Bunk.
Yes.
Like, oh, it's time to go, But anyway, so that's how it works for me. That's my process. And then if I'm having to learn songs, like this morning, I got a phone call about doing some dates for a thing, and I have to learn the song. I don't know any of the songs.
Yeah.
And I have a couple weeks to do it, but I'm also busy within that time. But they didn't send over any charts, so literally I'll have to go home today when we're done with this, and literally I'm going to listen to songs, and there's drums already there. I hope.
Yeah.
But I'll go and
I hope.
I hope, and I'll make charts and stuff. But
Yeah.
then also, going back to the ears thing, I'll use my ears to keep me familiar. So like, there's certain things that happen in almost every song. It stops and it ends. And so, but there, but there's different. There's all these like microcosmic things that happen within a song that happen on a lot of songs. So therefore, you end up knowing, like you can kind of like predict what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Based off this song that you've never heard, based off another song that you have heard. So like if you go, oh man, this kind of has like a Johnny Paycheck vibe to it, and then you go, which Johnny Paycheck song? And then you figure out that song, and you go, oh, you know what? I bet this stops at the end of the chorus or the end of the verse, and then you go, oh, and I bet there's 2 hits instead of 1, and you go, oh, I'm right. Okay, cool. Here we go.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of thing that, like, to me is that kind of thing that keeps you hired also.
Yeah.
Just having the awareness of knowing where something might go that you don't know, which also helps you just learn songs. If you're charting out stuff, you go, oh yeah, or if you have to recall something.
Yeah.
Recalling things it's like one of the worst things in the world, but it's a great tool to have as a musician. But unfortunately, there's so many songs and there's so many genres, especially like today. At the rate that songs are coming out today, you can't keep up with it.
No. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you have artists releasing songs, 6 times a year now. So that's 6 songs, and if they all do well, especially
at least, yeah.
If you're in a cover band and all those songs do well, you have to learn 6 songs per artist a year, doing a thing, or if you get a road gig and your artist is putting out new songs, they do well, all of a sudden you guys have 19 songs that you're playing in an hour and a half set that you got to figure out how to make that work. And then if you're playing those songs for the first time, you got to figure out how to like not let them bleed over. I mean, I remember the first time I slept with Cody Johnson, Jody, the band leader, great dude, on top of his shit. Like I'm telling you right now, on top. He sent me the work tapes. He sent me the board tapes. He sent me charts. He goes, nothing has changed, and I was like, sweet. I get there, things had changed a little bit, but but it was cool because I was well prepared. But one of the things that we didn't think about were the visual cues that Cody gives. So then we had to go back over it again, and I had to have a whole nother set of charts because there's no rehearsal, by the way. So I'm flying in and I'm playing, right?
Oh man.
They trust me to not suck.
Yeah.
So there's no pressure.
None at all. No.
It's just a sold out arena. It's no big deal, right? Yeah. Everybody knows all the songs. No big deal, right? But then so you get there and you realize I know these tunes. Oh, and I'm also not playing my drums. I'm playing someone else's drum kit.
Yeah.
So there's some challenges happening there, but I'm prepared because I know the songs. But then I realize I know the songs, but I don't know the show, and that's a whole nother thing. So then I literally, from sound check until time for the gig, I had to learn the show, which is Cody's visual cues. Know when to start this, when to start that. There's a click. There's all these things. And I just remember going, holy shit, like I'm overwhelmed. But then I took a step back and was like, this is not your first time playing drums. You've done this before. Everyone, you more than anyone else wants this to go like perfect. They want it to be 75%. They're never going to tell you that because they want you to be 100%. But they, if it's 75%, everybody's good. There's no big boo-boos. Everybody's good, right?
Yeah.
But I just remember like putting that pressure on myself, going, "Oh shit! Like, what am I gonna do?" And so I remember listening to the board tape, and then I wrote down all the cues that Cody had given me, like, "Oh man, like at the end of Long-Haired Country Boy, I jump off this thing. It's a moment. I jump off this thing, and when I land, you hit. I didn't know that soundtrack. So then I was like, and he was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm sorry."
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that, man.
There's a lot, yeah. So, and I guess to go back, the whole thing was like, I was able to learn the music because I was familiar with styles of things.
Yeah.
But then I had to go and learn the show, which is, we're talking about advice to give people. If you're ever going to get a gig, if you do get a gig or subbing or whatever, like learn the show, learn the flow, especially the drummer, learn the flow of the show, because that is the most comforting thing for the artist that you're working with, either for the first time, either your only time just working with them or the first time as a new gig. And that provides like so much comfort for people when you do that. If not, no matter how well you play the songs, they probably won't have you back.
Yeah.
Which is like weird.
So good, man.
Yeah. But
well, dude, thanks so much for sharing a little bit of your story, man.
Yeah, totally.
I
can babble too, man.
It's been so good. I wanna end with one more question. I always ask everybody this. So if you go back to Georgia to 8-year-old Keio, what advice would you give yourself today?
Ooh. Honestly, the advice I give myself is to trust yourself.
Explain that.
So basically, we are who we are, and if you're like, 8-year-old me was actually pretty. I remember 8-year-old me actually really well, which is really funny. And 8-year-old me was a kid who was insecure, even at 8 years old. I was short. I've always been short. I was short. I'm still short. I've always been a little guy. I've always been kind of a runt, And I never really trusted myself in anything that I did. The only thing that I knew I was good at was playing drums. But even then, I could be swayed. Someone could be like, "You're doing that wrong," and I'd be like, "Okay." And then I would never have the know to be like, maybe I'm not doing this wrong. Maybe this person is being jealous, which was the case in some of those. Whereas someone would be like, "Oh, this kid's actually really good. I need to put him down." So as for 8-year-old me, I would tell me to trust myself more and to also realize that it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And I had to tell 44-year-old Keio that too. It's trust yourself. It's gonna be okay. And it's true though, because it's like you start to put these weird pressures on yourself as a young person, and it just continues through your life. And it's like, just don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, especially now with, 8-year-old Keio, it was 88. There's, nothing was happening. Probably a lot of shit was happening, but it wasn't as loud as it is now. So you could focus on yourself, which is unlike today. An 8-year-old today has so many distractions that it's hard to focus on themselves. So I would tell 8-year-old me, 8-year-old anyone, to like focus on yourself, trust yourself, realize it's gonna be okay, and and then that Brian Davis is the greatest drummer in the world.
Oh man, everybody out there listening, there are some big stories that we have from St. Augustine and BD. Oh man. I've been known to get up on the drums too.
I love it.
I closed the show out at the festival on the drums.
See, I love that. Let's just talk about this, man. Drums are great, and drums are amazing.
They are when a drummer is playing them.
Well, yeah, when a drummer's playing them. But what's really funny though is a lot of people gravitate to the drum because it is the easiest way to express yourself. You can express yourself by just hitting something, and it's not wrong until the second time you do it. then it's wrong.
Yeah.
Then it's either right or wrong.
Yeah. Then your ears are not working. Yeah.
The first
that whole ear thing, that's not working for you. Oh, dude, I love it.
The first time you hit it, you're expressing yourself. The second time you hit it, if you're in time, then you're still expressing yourself. If you're not, you're wrong.
So good. Dude, I love you to death, man.
Yeah, I love you, man. Thanks for having me, dude.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
And I feel like we didn't even touch on Kimmel or, like it just, all that stuff. There's just so many great things. So like, it just, we could have had a 3-hour episode easy, but
yeah, we don't want that. People sleep, it's like, like, hey, dude, shut up. I'm trying to sleep.
No, but I appreciate you coming in. It's been a nice little twist. Like we don't get to sit down with drummers. So yeah.
I wouldn't either.
It's been fun.
I know.
Typically I try to stay clear.
I would stay clear of all drummers.
Yeah.
They're just loud, very loud.
Yeah.
Loud people.
7 a.m. until 10 at night. It's just
Dude, I'm telling you right now, like those days were so fun because I could just I would play until I just fell asleep. It was so much fun. Like I want to get, like, part of me wants to get that back a little bit, and the other part of me is old. And if I played drums that long, I would just be in pain the next day.
Yeah.
But man, how fun was that? And how thankful, how grateful I should be to have people who believed in me enough to be like, this kid's doing something.
Yeah.
He wants to do something, and maybe eventually he'll do it.
Yeah.
And and being in Nashville, like, I know, like, we're wrapping this shit up, sorry, but like being in Nashville, getting to do what I do and being able to do it on the level that I've been able to do it for so long, really is a testament to my family. And that includes my grandparents, my parents, my daughter, she lives in Wisconsin, I live here, and her just having the understanding that, like, dad's doing his thing so that we can all go forward is way cool. And it's like, it's funny because I share all W's with them. I share all L's with them also. No, all the L's are my fault. I'm like, I sucked. But all the wins basically go to your support system.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's like when a team wins when they win the Super Bowl, everyone gets a ring. I think even the janitor gets a ring. You know what I mean? Because he's supposed to. He was a part of the team, right? You might be the person on the field, but everybody else is there to encourage you and make things so that you can do your thing. And my family has done that, and my friends too.
Yeah.
Like I would be nowhere without all my great friends. The thing is, like, we would have never met each other if it hadn't been friends that
you're right.
that brought us together or reintroduced us or worked together. It's like most people don't work with people who aren't their friends, especially in this business. So. Anyway, there's that.
Love it. Yep. Well, you're my friend. You're my friend, bro.
Thank you for being a friend. Which is so weird. It's a dude that sings that. I mean, the original song. Yeah. Andrew Gold.
Yeah.
He also did Lonely Boy. You remember that song?
Yes. Oh, man. I'm drawing. Sing it. How's it go?
Oh, I'm a horrible singer.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Everybody's already clicked off. They're not even listening anymore. We're gonna let's bring it home. How does everybody follow you?
Oh, I'm Black Yoda on Instagram. BLAC, no K, Yoda. True story. Just forgot to put the K there.
Are you serious? Another thing I never knew about.
I just forgot.
That's funny.
That was just, true story. I was hammered with someone, and I've had Instagram forever, by the way. So I've had Instagram. Me and Derek Wells got Instagram around the same time. I think he actually was like, "Hey man, you seen this thing called Instagram?" I was like, "No, what is this?" And I remember because the hashtags, oh sweet hashtags, and so like that night. I got a Instagram account, and then woke up the next day and I was like, oh shit, forgot the K. And I went back to do it and someone had it.
Oh wow.
And I was like, well, this works.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought about changing it to Keio Stroud, but I
no, it works. It works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, dude, thanks again. We're gonna wrap it up so you can go chart some drum lines. So thank you guys, everybody out there listening. This has been another episode of Stories Behind the Songs. You've been listening to Keio Stroud. We will put all kinds of things in the liner notes, so check that out. And thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. Make sure to give us a follow on Spotify if you enjoyed this episode, and make sure you click that notification button so you can keep notified when new episodes come out. We release brand new episodes every Tuesday, and you can find us on YouTube at Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to send us a comment letting us know what you thought of the episodes. We love getting your feedback, and share this with your friends. The more we grow, the more that we can keep doing this. It's our mission to bring you all of these great stories behind the songs from some of Nashville's most iconic artists and songwriters, publishers, producers, everyone in between, and a lot of my great friends. We love what we do, and we love sharing their stories with you. We appreciate all of the continued support. Thanks also to all of our sponsors, and we will see you all next week.